voice, but otherwise I don't know. Oh, suddenly I'm here. Hi there. Because I know we are a bit late and I want to be respectful of all your time, I'm going to densify a little what I'm going to say in order for the organizers to have enough time for the rest of the speakers afterwards. So bear with me if I'm a little bit fast, but I will mention it directly. If there's anything of the information I will give that you need, you can find me on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, anywhere, and I'll be happy to connect with you and tell you about some of the other details. Anyway, if this would work, nope, one. You have a great chance here, but bear in mind you can lose it all. This is from a movie, actually. Have you seen the movie called There Will Be Blood? So it's a movie about the conquest of oil in the United States, and I know that here you also have a lot of oil. But innovation is also very important because if you do not apply the right recipes, if you don't make the right policies as a government or as a country, if as a company you don't apply innovation, you might actually die. This is why I call, and I've seen that everywhere, innovation is the new oil. All the companies I work with, they all want to know what is innovation. They all come to me and others, you've heard others today, and they ask what is innovation. We need innovation. They don't exactly know what it is, but they want innovation. One reality that is absolutely, sorry because this is going a little slow. I witnessed the nascence of many ecosystems in the world. I've been working in South America and Brazil especially, I've been working in North America, I've been living in Tokyo in Japan, I've been living in Manila in the Philippines, I've worked in Singapore, I've worked in China as well, and everywhere for the past 10 years I've seen a lot of nascent ecosystems. You're not the first ones that has a nascent ecosystems. Not all the lessons that have been created anywhere else can be applied here, but it's still interesting, and this is what I'm going to tell you today. It's interesting to know a few of the things that have made these a success. And these apply for the ecosystems as an ecosystem itself for the country, but it's also lessons for corporates and lessons for the startups themselves. First thing before I go there is that, and I'm not going to be a professor today, I'm not going to bore you, but these two graphs you see on these two sides of the screens here, they mean simply one thing. If you fail to invest in innovation, you will be falling behind. Do you want to win or do you want to lose? You are going to lose if you fail to invest in innovation. There are many studies I can provide you if you want. Connect with me, I'll provide you the study for this one. There are many studies that show that if you don't invest in innovation, you are going to be left behind. And those who invest are going to win very big, actually. I call that concept innovation inequality. A lot of people talk about income inequality. You know, supposedly they're very poor and the very rich are becoming richer and richer. That is exactly the same dynamic for innovation. There are very poor companies that they don't know how to innovate, and those who are extremely good at innovating, innovate more and more and more. And the gap is actually increasing year by year. This is the reason it's an imperative for companies to understand what is innovation. And it's a lot of things. I'll get there in a few seconds. If you don't innovate, you will lose it all. Again, as a company or even as a country, I've seen many ecosystems that could have gone somewhere and are still struggling 5, 7 years after they started because they don't apply the right recipes that you should, I hopefully here, apply in Kazakhstan. And I'm very happy that you invited me here to talk about this. The world is extremely complex. It's becoming more complex by the day. This is Shinjuku Station. It's a station in Japan, in Tokyo. I used to live in Tokyo, as I told you. It's a station that has 4 million people a day. I come from a country which is called Switzerland. We have basically between 8 and 9 million people. So every day, half of my country was going through that station. But what it showed me how complex it was. When you have so many people in such a small environment, though it's a big station, suddenly you have to apply recipes to make everything work. Otherwise, the whole system would collapse. All the trains in Japan are always on time. Even with that kind of people, the average delay in 2008 in Tokyo was 0.8 seconds. So they've understood recipes, how to make the system work. And this is exactly the kind of stuff I want you to understand in terms of innovation. Sorry, this is going a bit slower than I thought. These are the 3 things I'm going to go very quickly over technology because we've seen that today already. a little bit about people, and of course, then the lessons. First, technology. I want to demystify that word. Everybody talks about technology as if it's something completely new. Technology has always been with us. You can see, I hope you can read, but you can see all these inventions from the printing press to the steam machine. All that was technology. Technology can simply be defined as something we do as people to make our lives easier. The big difference is in 1947, we started outsourcing our brain because we invented the transistor, and it allowed us to actually outsource our calculus, outsource the mechanisms of our brain to computers, which leads us to today. Sorry. Every decade or so, there's a new paradigm shift in computing. Obviously, and I'm going to go quick because people have already said that today, the big one nowadays is smartphones. But the interesting bit on that graph is not the fact that we have a new one every 10 or 15 years, it's that every time it multiplies by at least 10 to tenfold. And that currently, the paradigm shift we are in, which is both mobility, Internet of Things, all these things together, is a huge paradigm shift because for the first time in history, it affects everything and everyone. Another way to see how fast it goes is the time to adopt the technology. I have many stats like this. I just took one to give you. This is the number of years it took for a technology to reach 100 million people on Earth. And as you can see, the telephone took 75 years to reach 100 million people. WhatsApp only 3 years, for instance, which is the equivalent of Viber, that people use it, which is an equivalent of sending text, SMS. The technology is adopted in the world faster and faster, which is again a call for you. If you don't want to lose, you have to be extremely fast nowadays. So first, the three drivers of technology. First is deflation, the fact that it's become cheaper to produce technology because processing power is getting faster, which leads to everything is becoming software. The second driver is platforms, the fact that I've seen a lot of people here using even iPhones, which I didn't know, to be very honest, have not a good recollection of the data here in Kazakhstan, but it means that all the apps are created on top of another technology. So platforms is the second driver of technology. And the third is, of course, the social networks, the fact that we all suddenly network together, we all being able to connect with each other, and that creates a new dynamic. And that dynamic is what? Is that you don't need to be located anywhere else in specific to be able to innovate. It used to be that you had to be in big cities, it used to be that you had to be in the West. It doesn't matter anymore because you can connect with anyone, anywhere in the world, anytime you want. The second chapter, and sorry because I'm talking fast, I need to drink. The second chapter is people. This is Manila, where I also lived, and Manila is an emerging country. Very different dynamic, of course, for other emerging countries I work with, of course, including here in Kazakhstan. So again, I don't know anything about this country. I just read your Wikipedia page, so that's not a lot for me to be very clever about this. But it reminded me that the fact that I lived there reminded me of the importance of people. Because at the end of the day, everything we do, everything we want to do is all about people. And the people today, who are you? Who are them? Sorry, they are the youth. And the youth, all these ecosystems has visited, sometimes just by working with corporations. I was not working with startups there. They all are the same. Entrepreneurs, they're free thinkers, they ignite ideas, they create ideas, they break the rules. They break the rules. This is one reason that startup ecosystems work, is that they break the rules. I know that some people don't like when people break the rules, but that's why it's so some of these companies are so successful. And I'm going to give you a few examples later on about these. Another thing that is very important to notice is that, for instance, I took two examples here. Where Skype was launched in 2003. Skype, for those who don't know, is a tool that allows you to communicate online. I'm sorry if you know it, now I look like a fool. 10 years after it was invented, 40% of international calls were done via Skype. The importance here is not Skype, the importance is the speed. In 10 years, a startup at the beginning was able to capture 40% of the market of international calls. Another example is, of course, WhatsApp, as I told you, equivalent of Viber. It launched in 2009. 5 years later, so in 5 years, they overtook SMS, which is a traditional way that was invented by telcos and sold to Facebook, obviously. But the point is, again, in 5 years, they were able to grab an entire market, which was the text messaging. The very important bit for the youth I just talked to you about, the entrepreneurs, there were only 55 employees. 55 people at the time of this sale, so 5 years after the foundation of the company, were able to disrupt an entire part of the industry. And I used to work in telco, and trust me, SMS was the cash cow for telco. Suddenly, 55 guys are able to completely destroy this revenue because they invented something on its platform thanks to the 3 drivers I told you before. This is what they see, the entrepreneurs. They see it's possible. They see it's actually really possible to change the world very, very quickly. A few reels, so the new king, speed. Your competition, and I tell that to all the clients I work with, is not the other company that does the same thing as you. Your competition is speed. It's how fast can you innovate? How fast can you put a product to market before someone else, maybe WhatsApp or Skype in those cases, but maybe someone we don't even know about yet. Because that's the problem when people are only focused on competition, they don't know the young guy that might be sitting in this room, that might be sitting in this conference, a great conference, by the way, thank you guys, that might be inventing the next big thing that we don't know about. So if you focus on competition, you're never seeing that one. That guy could be a girl, by the way, I'm very gender neutral when I say that. The world scales faster than ever. It goes extremely quickly. It has never been as easy to put an idea to life. That's one of the things that the youth is seeing. The second thing, as I told you about the rule breakers, and I know again it is not something that makes everybody happy, is that the youth doesn't believe in institutions anymore. They don't believe in government, they don't believe in universities, they don't believe in the top-down organizations anymore. Because if I can create a company by myself that actually changes an industry, why should I trust big, fat, old-fashioned organizations? They don't. And this is what I'm hearing in every single country I go to. They simply don't. The old world, like I said here, the old world can't solve problems fast enough. The old world thinks about managing problems. Startups don't think about managing problems. They just solve it. The organizations, as I just said, they're failing as well. I told you before, some of them can innovate. I mean, this is a long talk. You can talk about that with Brent this morning. He does great workshops and great products and methodologies about that. This is the phrase, the word there is a little stab at management consultants, because what management consultants, they do when they come in a company, they say, we optimize your company. Well, optimization is not innovation. Optimization is making a process a little bit faster, a little bit better, a little bit, less costly, but that still doesn't prevent disruption at the end of the day. Again, the king here is speed, and all companies are too big and too slow to understand complexity. Finally, everything is at our fingertips. That's very easy. Many people said it today. I mean, again, everyone can create an app, everyone can create a startup, everyone can try. I'm going to go to failure a little bit later, but everyone can try. So the future is invented faster than ever, which is again why institutions cannot go fast enough, which is sometimes why regulation actually is hindering innovation. Sorry. So the lessons. I'm going to go in 2 kinds of lessons because I want to again be respectful of your time. This is, by the way, London. If you wait a little bit, this guy will actually pick his nose. 1, 2, 3. Here you go. He's picking his nose in the tube. I should have watched that before I actually created that video. So, I told you, innovation inequality, like income inequality. How do you fail? Why do companies, why do countries, why do entities fail at innovating? The big thing is, of course, the failure to understand and adopt new technologies and best practices. I know it sounds a little bit management consultant when I say that, but I mean, it's been proven over and over. Companies that do not understand the new type of technologies fail every single time. We call that a breakdown of innovation diffusion. Why though? A few things. And I'm not going to go all over them because otherwise I'll be too long. Bad use of global networks. A lot of companies do not use the fact that you can actually talk to anyone in the world very quickly. You can find best practices. This is a great place here. You don't even have to use global networks. You have people that come from, thanks to the organizer, that come from all over the world. They bring best practices, or at least what they think is best practices, but this is how you learn. If you stay closed, if you don't talk to each other, then you're going to fail. This is proven companies fail because they tend to just think about themselves. They're blocking the dynamism. They're also blocking the IP. That's very important. I'll get to that a little bit later. By not sharing what they know, they also keep failing. But the second bit, and that's very important, is the failure to hire the right talent and to hire the right skills. Basically, the failure to have the right people. And why is that? The big thing is, basically, assortative mating is something in biology when two people that are very, very similar, they go together and basically they have sex. This is a biological concept. This is the same thing that happens in company. I want to hire people that are very like me, and that person will hire people that are very much like them, and on and on and on. The problem with that, you end up with a company that has no diversity, especially, you know what? You end up with a company that has only white old males, not a single female. And this is actually proven to be a problem. If you keep hiring the same people than you will fail. And that actually applies to startups as well, and to governments, obviously. All the time, it fails. And there's actually one study that is very interesting. It says that if a single person in a company is failing, that's enough for the entire company to stop innovating. A single person can make the entire chain of innovation break down in a company. The failure to invest in the future, I'm going to go a little bit fast on this because I don't have time. Again, the lack of IT investment. The failure to revolutionize the institutions, so basically the fact that we say, oh, we're going to keep the same old rules, we're going to get the traditional structure when there's like, very hierarchical structure, and who gets promoted gets promoted not because he or she is smart, but because he or she's been here for like 10 years. That's always a failing. For governments, for startups, even though startups don't have usually that longevity, but I see startups who say, no, this person will be with me because he's been or she's been here forever. That doesn't work that way. I'm going to go again a little bit fast if that thing would work. Sorry for that. Technology, see? So the premium is on what? Is on two things. Technology, having the right type of technology, and A players. A players having the right kind of people. If you have these two things, and I know it seems easy just to say it like this, if you have these two things, you can actually win and you're not going to lose. So the right question to ask, to answer the question asked at the very beginning, what is innovation, is not the right question. Nobody knows what exactly is innovation, and that's okay. You have many definitions, they're all very valid. I'm not going to go into a debate with people that might not agree with me. The most important bit is that how do you facilitate innovation? You have to liberate it, you have to make it, you have to have the right framework for it to happen. I don't care what is innovation. Just make the right conditions for it to exist. And if it's an ecosystem like here, put the right conditions for it to exist. Put the right conditions for startup to survive, to exist, to thrive. Not which startup we will choose. I'll go there in a minute. Because otherwise you'll miss it. Especially, you know what? Because nowadays we all talk about smartphones and apps and stuff. You know what? I work with UCL. So UCL is a university in London. They do this kind of thing when they start now to recode your DNA. They change people on demand. This is something we don't talk about today, and I don't know anything about, honestly. I'm just interested in it because I found it fascinating. But again, if you think only about, for instance, stuff that happens on smartphones, you will lose that new next wave of innovation. Why not? Kazakhstan could be a place where all the scientists come to talk about DNA. I have no clue. You have to put the right conditions. If you don't, you're going to fail. And this is extremely important. This is the most important thing for emerging countries. I know I just called you an emerging country, but emerging countries, the biggest opportunity ever for emerging countries is the fact that now, thanks to all these technologies, you could be the next one. You could be the one that everybody talks about down the line in 10 years. I know I said that to every emerging country I go to, so of course you can be, no, I don't have any preference for Kazakhstan, but you have a shot at making it happen. The West, we are the ones suffering. I say we because I come from Western Europe. We are the ones suffering. You have a shot at making this happen that we never had, or probably had like hundreds of years ago. But you need to allow for a culture of entrepreneurship in order to make that happen. I've got a few rules here. Innovation needs global customer bases. For a long time, European startups were so-so compared to American startups. The reason why was because European startups were only looking at their national customer bases. What they need to do, and what you need to do here, is to make sure that startups are able, it's a choice, but are able to sell anywhere in the world. No rules should prevent that to happen, otherwise you will fail. The only reason now the European market has picked up in terms of funding, in terms of quality startups, is because for the first time, finally, European startups are saying we are global companies. It doesn't matter where you are based. You could be based here in Astana and have global customers, but you have to be able to have the reach to do that. That comes with infrastructure and other stuff, of course. Easy rules, evidently. Savvy investors, but savvy investors, I'll come to that. They only come because you have easy rules and because you have global customer bases. Get out of the way. I know that before I heard, no, get out of the way, it's too easy to say to government. But you know what? Over time, I still believe that government should be a little bit out of the way. It should facilitate, it should not give orders to the ecosystems. Don't do it the easy way. So I hear a lot of rules, so I don't have time, but one of the things that is the most important for investors, you have to have the right banking rules. If I want to invest in Kazakhstan, I don't know Kazakhstan, so I'm not able to judge. But if I want to invest in an emerging country, cross-border investment is really hard because I'm not sure about the rules that will apply to me. I need a good financial rules that are clear, easy to understand. You also need very clear bankruptcy rules. When a company fails, because many speakers before me talked about the fact that you need to be able to fail, if after failing you basically either go to jail or you need 20 years to be able to get access to banking again, this is not going to go anywhere. You need to allow people to fail, but it's not easy to say. You need to allow people to fail by making the right rules, especially financial rules. Exit path, everybody has to win. That's something people tend to forget. Like everybody has to win. The LPs have to win, the people that invest in the venture capital firms and the venture capital firm themselves and the entrepreneurs themselves, obviously. The de-risking, we've heard that earlier about the de-risking of investment. Lebanon, for instance, I do some work with the Central Bank of Lebanon. What they do, they de-risk investment. They know that it's a risky investment to invest in Lebanon. So what do? They provide some type of guarantees for investors, so it de-risks the investment. I can give you details, I can point out to the right website if you want to learn about this example, but de-risking is something that is, even if you have the best banking rules in the world, people as an emerging country, from outside you see like, ooh, it's an emerging country, I'm not sure. So if you de-risk investment, it's a good way to actually attract potential investors. Of course, friendly jurisdictions, like Singapore, Estonia, skills. I'm going to go because education is important. This thing is technology. Labor laws, labor laws, that's very important. That's one I really need to talk about. And that's not only for startups, that's for every single company. The best countries, the countries that are the most resilient to crisis, when there's a downturn, or where there's the crisis, also internal as a company, are countries that allow you to fire people easily. You don't need 6 months to fire someone. You need to fire people easily. I come from a country, Switzerland, which works pretty well. It's not the most entrepreneurial country in the world. I can fire someone with only 1 month notice. I don't need an excuse. I don't need to even say why. I just can fire someone. But you know what? Switzerland has been one of the most resilient economies in the past 50, even 70 years. Also because of that. Because when we need to fire people, we just fire them. Because the problem is otherwise, you never hire them. Because you're like, oh, if I hire someone, but then it's so difficult to fire, I'm never going to hire. So for a big organization, it's a problem. For a startup, it's life or death. Because if you can suddenly not hire 5 people, you just need 5, but these 5 could be such a liability to never do, well, you're not going to do it. The country needs to reform, I don't know again the rules here, but the countries need to reform the labor laws. The most resilient countries are the countries where the labor laws are the most liberal. US, Switzerland, other examples as well. Anyway, I need to go fast, so I'm going to go because otherwise Anna is going to shout at me that I'm too slow today. So, stop protecting. That's something I see in emerging countries. Oh, these industries, we need to protect them and nobody can touch them. I mean, come on. You don't need to do that. One of the things that the NASA did is interesting. NASA has recently, NASA is the space agency in the United States. They decided to offer for free more than 1,000 patents. So the IP was talking about, for free for startups. No price. So suddenly you're a startup, you have an ID, and you also have the IP. You also suddenly have other foundations. Say, oh, these guys invented something very clever, and I can use it to create a product, and it's free. That's the decision of the government, because NASA is a public entity in the US. These are kind of stuff that countries can do, offer facilities for both the companies and, of course, startups as well. Open data, I mean, no time today, I'll get the next time. Of course, infrastructure, that's the one thing that a government has to be always, the best countries also have the best internet at the end of the day, because if you don't have access to the internet, well, people are just going to move if they want to create a startup. There's just no. The entrepreneurs, for those of you in the room are entrepreneurs, first of all, you need to stop complaining. Second of all, and I know this is not something that a lot of people like to hear, as VCs especially, I think it's okay to copy. I think it's okay to copy, and I think it's okay to copy. It's okay to have the same idea here in Kazakhstan that an idea that was done in France. Stop listening to people that tell you, oh, once it's been done once, it can never be, oh, this is rip-off, oh, blah, blah, blah. The Silicon Valley is perfect for that. By the way, a lot of the products they invent, because I lived in Asia, I've already been around in Asia, but when it comes to the Silicon Valley, it's the first time. When somebody does it in Germany, because of course everybody that knows what I'm talking about will think about it, oh, these guys are bad because they're copying. It's okay to copy. You know the country here, maybe the countries around you, in ways that I will, and other investors and other creators will never be able to know. If you think that a model can be applied here, well, you know what? Copy it and execute well. That's the thing that you need to know. Don't forget your roots. The best ecosystems are ecosystems where people come back. Some of you might be a big success. You will leave, maybe to the US. You come back. You give back. The best ecosystems are where people come back, either as investors or they restart something. They come back. You never forget your roots. It takes time, but this is a sign of a success. And all the successful ecosystems have seen that. And stop bickering, meaning stop, emerging countries sometimes you think everybody is like, I don't like this guy and I don't like this person. It's okay, think as a community. Stop actually talking to each other and being jealous of each other. Otherwise you're never going to go anywhere. The corporates need to do their job as well. No time to read all of what's written here, but basically corporates especially in emerging countries, have a very big role in helping the system, especially for financing. But themselves as well, they need it, because without innovation, they will fail, as I told you earlier. One of the ways, of course, to do that, and they have no choice, because if they don't do that, they will lose these entrepreneurs that are doing their own thing. They will not work with them. They will not, I'm not even talking about hiring them, because maybe that's too late. They still want to do their startups, but you need to cooperate. And that's even more important in emerging countries, because in emerging countries, especially in one like this, when it's a very nascent ecosystem, the corporates have a role to play, a very big role to play. And I sometimes hear, the startups like, yeah, the big corporates, I don't want to talk with the big corporates. I get it. It's not fun to talk with people who have a suit and a tie if you're an entrepreneur, but they're important. They can certainly offer you a new wide range of customers. They can offer you different ideas, and also simply work together, funding. So it's important to make them part of the game as well. This all, I can send it to you if you want to understand. There's reports about that. Some of them I've written as well. This is basically what you want to be able to do. You want to create a system where the system goes on and on and on and on. Finally, you have to forget Silicon Valley. Every ecosystem I go, people are like, I want to be like the Silicon Valley. Even then, if they say, no, we don't really want to be like the Silicon Valley, they still want to be like the Silicon Valley. There are other successful models that have been created. I've seen one that works pretty well is when universities have their own labs and own programs linked to it. That works very well in India, that works very well in Switzerland. These are systems that are valid, and I just told you before about other stuff apps that you might, some of the stuff I've seen here, by the way, is really cool. But biotech usually comes out from people that have been to universities and then find funding with something next to it. So these are programs that work. These are clean tech as well, agri-tech as well. These are stuff that come out for systems like universities and many other models, but basically to see that the model of the Silicon Valley is by far not the only one. Anyway, if you try, you're going to fail to replicate it. You want basically to create a responsive country that is able to move fast. Again, competition is speed, to gain over the others. And that's most important, it's a very big picture-y type of slide here, but we are the most disruptive time in history right now. A lot of people in the next 10 years, the majority of people will move to cities first. There will be 1 billion women that will enter the workforce within the next 10 years. And when people tell me, Paul, there's no money, well, there will be $17 trillion that are going to change hands within the next 10 years. Why? Because in the West, I hope my parents were not that rich, but in the West, people that made companies, like you guys are creating companies, are retiring and giving their money to their kids. $17 trillion would go in the hands of people that are in the age between 20 and 35. We have a different mindset, and we could be, for instance, investors. You never have to forget that. The money will be there. It's already there, but will be even massively more there than it has been before. If you blink as a country, if you blink as a corporate, if you blink as a startup, you lose. Speed. Your competition is speed. It's a game of inches. I took that from this movie with Al Pacino, Any Given Sunday, when he gives that greatest speech ever in the history of movies. I'll send it to the YouTube video. It's a game of inch. You have to move very quick. There's not a lot of room to play, but you can actually win. And I think a country like Kazakhstan can win. This is a proof. This is a very successful conference. But you have to be open to be able to do that. Innovation comes from divergence, not convergence. Stop thinking the same. On purpose, I put a woman on this slide because I think they are the future. I'm an old dinosaur. They are the future. You have to trust women. And in many countries, I see that it's still not happening. You have to trust women if you want to win. But trust divergence in general. Trust people that have different ideas. Trust people who will break the rules. Trust people who will just not even talk to you because they don't like you. That's okay. That's the only way you can be successful as a country. The rule number 1, innovation starts by disrupting yourself as a country, or yourself even as a person. Rule number 2, innovation needs heroes. Heroes nowadays, that went too fast. Heroes nowadays are one thing. People think heroes as Iron Man. Heroes in Greek mythology, and allow me to do that because I'm originally Greek, she was a she was a person, and she was showing the light for someone to actually find the way home. That's what you need. There are people here, maybe it doesn't matter which age, you can help. You need mentors in this country. You need to accept the fact that there will be other people to help. That's what I said, open. Innovation needs heroes. You guys need heroes. Is it working? Yeah. I think so. I think Kazakhstan has what it takes to do it. I don't really know the country, but I think it has what it takes. And what I'm sure about is that somebody, maybe in this room, is born that will disrupt one industry. We don't know which one. I don't know which one. Doesn't matter. You have to make it happen. You have to make the right, easy environment for it to happen. When I was in that station in Japan, Shinjuku, at the end, I'm very tall, so at the end I was able to understand how to go very quickly in the station, even though there was 4 million passengers, so 4 million people. Stand tall. Always stand tall. If you stand tall, if you find the patterns, if you find the things that you need to do, you will find a way to innovate. Listen to other people, understand the patterns, and you'll win. And on that, because I'm losing my voice anyway, thank you very much for your attention. And I'm waiting, so, so while it is coming, there was a lot of stuff there. Contact me, connect me on LinkedIn, etc. I'm gladly will share either the slides, not the full ones with all the videos, but at least the basic slides. If you want all the access to the information, all this is public, I can give it to you.
Paul, thank you very much. That was a lovely, lovely presentation, and
we
enjoyed it so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Yes.